Gonna go live here.
Are we live? I mean, last time you started us, I didn't know it.
Well, it takes it a second because there's a delay. So yes, it says excellent connection. I think we are
That
good.
means we are probably live. Let's see if people start showing up or not, and we'll go from there. And so,
We're
I'm
live,
gonna.
but no one's here.
All right, welcome to no one. um, hey everybody, Dr. Misak here, Pittsburgh Alternative Health. We are gonna, Annie says that I need to do this like introduction. Hi, Dr. Misak, and give you an idea of who I am, Dr. Misak, and talk about what I do. Guide people in health. I will minimize it because I think that I know very little, but yet because there's so much still to be known. Basically, we're here to give you a practical way that you can understand your health at home. And we've talked about teaching or how to test yourself at home, and where we're teaching a bioelectric chemistry approach to health that's in a practical manner, basically learning to eat for you. We're going to watch out here, see if people start logging in and jumping on board. I always like to start with a verse, and I just love the Bible app. Today is Micah 6:8. I can't remember picking up a verse from Micah for a long time, but it says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." That's pretty. Act justly, love mercy, and to walk humbly. How many of us are humble? I think pride can get a lot of us in trouble. Um, so I'm going to pull up my YouTube here so I can at least see the chat. That's what I usually do. And then it shows me whether we're actually, how everything's going here.
Yeah, we've got 3 people on.
And pull it up.
A little slower start this morning.
There we go. Diana, Indy, and EK Patriot. Amen. Good morning. I'm into Patriots. So I'm sure Annie would love to talk politics. I mean, we could.
Mercy. How is Biden still on the ticket? How is this even happening? The fact that they won't release those documents until after the election I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if people caught Pence's little statement about the attorney general having documentation on Biden and Obama and Hillary, and Trump did an executive order to release documents, and yet the attorney general says no, not until after the election. I mean, who gives him the authority to choose the timeline? Good question, right? But I know you guys love to see Annie's face in the morning. And so I'm going to get Annie to go because I did mix up a nice little shot. Mine's a little different than hers. So we're going to watch and see if Annie gives a nice face shot today. But I do these little shot mixes, and she has to talk, so the camera kicks over to her. And I love checking these out. So
yeah, well, cheers.
You
ready?
It's frozen.
You froze.
The camera just froze.
Yes.
No. Okay. Go again.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're trying again. Wait a minute. No, we're not. See, this doesn't want me to take it either because they're like, this is going to be crazy. What did you do? Here we go. Bottoms up. It's not so bad. Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, it made the camera freeze. What is in that one?
Yours had a little bit of everything. I put some stuff to open up your sinuses and
very burny
and those type of things. So there's some new stuff in there. I just changed my internet connection.
Oh, yeah, you did. It didn't drop, but it switched us for a second. Let's jump in here. Make sure.
Yeah, just make sure you're okay.
Yeah, we have 10 people on, and everybody's saying good morning. They can hear us, so you're good to roll.
BK Patriot agreed, an upside down world. Amen to that. It really is. Good verse for the political climate. Yep, it's amazing. That Bible app is just amazing what picks out sometimes. Hi, Doc. Leisha. Lots of prayers. We all need them. I actually made a live feed. DJ. Okay. Hello. You've made it onto the show. So we sit here, and Annie's kind of excited because if you checked out the thumbnail this morning, we were.
Your sound is dropped significantly. I can't hear you. Hey, Doc. I'm not hearing you.
Let me see. I am
Oh, there
checking
you're
my.
back. Okay.
Okay, I am connected fully, and it says that I'm going good. But if anybody has any problems hearing us, just send it in the feed and let us know, and let Annie know that you can't hear us. For some reason, we got the fastest Wi-Fi we could get for both input and output. It's FiOS, right? So we don't have these crashes. We actually turned around and had somebody come in here to run hard wires through our ceiling because we kept having internet issues where Wi-Fi was not holding a show. Should not be a problem because I can go to my mom's house who has squat for internet output, and I can run it. I've run shows from there without a problem. But for some reason, when we're running them here, don't know why we have the problem.
Well, we got the okay. We're good now.
Good. So let's just keep playing on. Carolyn, good morning. Good morning. And 5x5, 5x5. Good, good. And yes, it's good now. Hello, Annie. So, we're sitting here, and Annie was kind of excited because we've been working on these thumbnails, and these thumbnails, the basic is to try to create something that you can look at. And and this is what your chemistry says. And everyone's like, you got that from my urine, and saliva. I'm like, yeah. And I sit there and gave this lady a picture of everything, her chemistry. And next thing you know, she's just crying. I'm like, what did I say? She's like, no, I have been to so many doctors and nobody has ever even understood what I'm trying to say that I'm going through. And you just told me my life just by looking at those numbers. How do you do? What is this? And I said, basically, it's an imbalance. If you are not healthy, if there's something going on, there's an imbalance in you. So you can look at it from a Ayurvedic standpoint, and you can look at it from a Chinese medicine standpoint of yin and yang, that everything's got to be in balance. And I love Chinese medicine because it says it's got to be in balance energetically, which really it does. And Kerry Reams, who explained this aspect mathematically, he also explained how we build healthy cells and how they go through the body and how the liver channels things to transformer glands. And ironically, transformer glands are where we have acupuncture points, interestingly enough. So he basically, kind of confirmed the Eastern philosophy on how energy moves through the body, not as well as Reinhard Voll from the 1950s and EV equipment. And a German medical doc and researcher, and the guy around, and he did traditional medical therapy.
Hey, Doc. I am losing you.
Okay.
Let's see. There we go. Okay.
Because it shows that I'm on. So let me turn my speaker a little bit. Maybe it's facing. But he had bladder cancer. He read that you could bladder cancer, and so what did he choose? And it says that I'm connected with all my bars.
So I didn't hear. I couldn't even tell you that I couldn't hear you.
Okay. So I just got an internet connection showing that there's an issue, but I've got all my bars unconnected. So I didn't know
now, so we're at least
starts giving a break. Just let us know. We do not understand why this keeps happening. We've run hardcore cables and everything to directly connect us to Wi-Fi, and I don't know why we keep having these issues. So anyway, Reinhard Voll goes and he says, well, wait a minute, as a scientist, and how can we have this incredible medicine and yet we can go get needles stuck in us and I can get better from something that we can't figure out how to cure otherwise? And so he says there's got to be something to this electrical system. So he decides to test it. And I know Andy's taking notes right now that I talked about EAV because we keep notes for these people to make a sense of what we're doing. But he turned around and he said, well, if they're saying that it's energy moving through us, then I'm going to measure energy. So he had the genius idea to measure skin galvanic points, using galvanic electricity to measure the galvanic energy coming off of the skin and doing it at acupuncture points. And lo and behold, he found that acupuncture points had a measurable, balanced amount of energy that should come through them versus a random point on the body. And he mapped out, he confirmed all these old these old acupuncture charts, but then he also turned around and found others. He found about 840 points on the body. It gets better. Then he turned around and he had somebody that he was testing because he was finding, imbalance points were associated with poor health or certain health disorders. And then he turned around and had somebody who was imbalanced one day that left the room and came back and they were balanced. He's like, what'd you do? Nothing. No, you did something because you're measurably different, because this is, again, analytical medicine, right? People, we're measuring, we're analyzing. So what Voll took on is that the body is electric and that we can measure electricity from the body and we can measure variances in those electricity patterns. And if there is a weakness in that pattern or which is if you think about it, a weakness would be a yin deficiency, right? Or it's too much yin, not enough yang. Or you can measure excesses in that acupuncture point where it's irritated, and that's excess of yang, right? So you got versus not enough yin. And so he turned around, and this guy came back, and he said, "Well, I went and got this herbal," and he had it. The story goes that it was echinacea. I have no clue. But the bottom of the line is the guy took the bottle out of his pocket. Voll tested him. He was imbalanced. He held the bottle. Voll tested him. He was back in balance. Oh my God. If we hold something that has an electrical frequency, well, wait a minute. I have a homeopathic here. Now I just got the energy of that my body's in contact with it. Okay. And so some of you may know that by muscle testing, by people who do applied kinesiology. They come over and they test for muscle strength, and then they have you hold vials or they push points on the body, and then they test you or they ask you questions. Let's put the vibrational aspect of a question. Are you allergic to wheat? Are you allergic to, wheat, dairy, corn? Sorry, just go and muscle testing and seeing which one turns up weak and putting that vibration out there, because everything is vibration. I have a paper on my desk that I could have Annie go get, and it's about autism. And they're basically saying that what we speak and our intuitive thoughts can affect our DNA. Interesting, because it's all vibration. So Reinhard Voll, when he discovered electricity moving through the system and he could measure it, he was up for a Nobel Prize in medicine. When he discovered that you could balance those points by testing them, putting some where they're imbalanced and having somebody hold or putting in the circuit vials of herbs, nutrients, whatever, and it corrected it. And then the people got better from taking that, or vice versa. People were imbalanced or balanced, and then you start putting toxic substances into the circuit and it throws them out of balance. It's like, oh my, this is bad for you. That's how we test for food and chemical sensitivities. And all of a sudden, when he made the connections that everything that you're in contact with in this world energetically affects your yin yang energy, however you want to look at it, and we can measure it. Oh my God, at that point, he was a quack. And he lost his status as far as becoming a world-renowned physician that said, look what I discovered. So energy, people, that's what we're talking about. It's what we always talk about. It's all vibration. It really is, and so there are so many, and I'm not discrediting people who do applied kinesiology. There's a lot of good ones out there, but when they put their brain into it, because you can intuitively think, hey, this person's going to react to wheat. Oh, I see you're weaker because I already thought it. So the people who are good at applied kinesiology are the ones who can take their brain out of the system. I can't. When I was being taught applied kinesiology in school, I found that I could have the person's muscles react the way that I thought that I wanted them to. Interesting, right? So I could make them get weak just by what I was thinking. That might be too much power in one capacity. Right? So the other aspect is is if I got a bunch of products that I need to sell, guess what? I can make you stronger by thinking that this product's going to make you stronger. And then you're convinced, like, oh my God, yeah, that is better. So I'm going to buy it. And I'm going to buy several $100s a month of it and come back in next month and you can test me again. And unfortunately, the people who do electrodermal EAV testing, that's what they teach. Test people's meridians, find the imbalanced ones, find products that balance them back out, sell them the products, have them come in every month, charge them $50, $75 to retest them, and just keep selling them products. I tried it. People feel better, but you don't see cures. You see improvements. You see, you see cancer patients feeling better, but you don't see them getting better. You see these worst case scenarios, you see improvements, because when I'm trying to help people understand, like I have my daughter, so she came in, we were doing RBTI, Ream's biological theory of ionization. If you want to ask what that means, I call it bioelectric chemistry, because frankly, if you put RBTI in something, you get, guys, if you start emailing RBTI, you're going to be on a watch list, by the way. I once did a radio show on RBTI, and the moment I posted it, within 30 seconds, I got an email from SoundCloud that said 2 people just downloaded my show. And then I went to look at what those people, because in SoundCloud, you can look at the profiles of those people, and then they didn't exist. So I emailed SoundCloud, and SoundCloud says those people have closed accounts. Oh, wait a minute. They just downloaded my show 30 seconds ago, and their account was closed the minute after I checked it. That's interesting. So people there's certain things that are watched, and Carrie Reams was one person who was curing, you name it. And how? By thinking and understanding energy. If you want to understand the concepts and how the universe works, you have to think in terms of frequency and vibration. That's Tesla. Who's the smartest man to walk this world? And then you got Einstein. Everything is relative. Relative meaning anything you're in combination with or in association with is relative to where you are, time, place, orientation, and math is relative, to something else. When you're looking at this equation, one number is relative to the other number. So one perfect number, if we're going to talk about pH today, does not mean that if you get pH of 6.4 over 6.4 that you're healthy if the other numbers are not perfect. Because in mathematics, the equation is not perfect until all the numbers are perfect. So what we're trying to help you understand is that everything, what we're doing when we're looking at these numbers, these set of numbers, and why did this lady go in tears a few days ago, is because the numbers and the patterns associated with the numbers tell a picture of imbalance and steer you to where in the body something's going wrong. And when you look at that, it also tells you where the deficiencies lie, particularly calcium, whereas modern medicine teaches death by calcium. Most people die of calcifications and clogging of their arteries and whatever else. And Hal Huggins has shown that a lot of people do hair analysis and their hair calcium is elevated. So therefore people have too much calcium. And there's a book out there, literally Death by Calcium, and he's basing it on hair analysis, that high hair analysis of calcium says that people have too much. And they turn around and show you all the statistics in association with calcification, stenosis, and hardening of the arteries, and stones being formed or whatever in the body from too much calcium. How about you are energetically not able to use that calcium, so your body's depositing it because it won't waste it, and it's depositing it in the wrong tissues because it's the wrong form of calcium. That's what Carrie Reams taught, that there's 7 basic groups of calcium, 6 of them you need every day. And when you're imbalanced on the forms of calcium you get imbalances in the body, because that steers pH and your frequency. Interesting stuff. I hope you find so. Let's hear what you have to say. Let me look here for a second. Annie, you should be keeping an eye on this and tell me if somebody says something. Good morning, Mary. Jackie, good morning. Leisha, you dropped out. Yep. Danny's good. Diane, good. Leisha, both great now. Expatriate, I found you on 412 and On's morning show and Patriot Soapbox a few years back. Always listening from. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I used to be on that show, and quite frankly, that show is why this show is censored. Putting myself on that, starting on that platform, got me marked. And so when I went, and what Annie and I have tried to do, we have over 1,200 followers, yet we get 30 people on the show. Why is that? You can see the YouTube stats. Do you believe in censorship? Thank you. Something I ate at dinner increases my nitrates. Good. Will the nitrates show a test or a change after 2 hours or the next day? Possibly both. So nitrates is showing that you're eating something that your body can either break down, and it's showing that you're having a high building capacity. So when you eat your greens and you eat your veggies and things that are easy to digest, the nitrates go up. And the ammonia nitrates are the ones that show that you're not digesting something or that your body is breaking down. And so those are the ones that are toxic to the body. Whereas the nitrates is the building blocks. And nitrates overall, is like the electromagnetic intensity of what your body is. It's the degree of magnetism. How strong is your magnet? Whereas the urine pH, which we're going to talk about today, gives you an idea of your frequency, how fast are things going. So if you ever seen pictures of frequency, they have these, high pitch or these low pitch, and so they have these waves that show slow waves or fast waves, right? And so that's the speed of the frequency, and what dictates your speed is pH. Let's look at this. We'll go into that a little more in a minute. What about trying to do the show through Zoom, which we're doing right now, by the way, and recording it, which we're doing right now?
Well, not through Zoom solely.
Yeah.
I think she means do like a big meeting on Zoom and have everybody come on, and don't be on YouTube, and then just post the show later, which is an idea, but we still can't get it out there to a mass amount of people and let them know about it. That's a big problem. We are looking into Parler. We might switch, because Parler we might have more success with because of the mindset that exists within Parler, just because of why the users are there. It might be an option, but right now we're staying with YouTube, I guess.
Yeah, so Sophie says maybe a different platform, which is again what we're looking at.
Yeah.
The problem is you go to those platforms, and those platforms are the alternative platforms, and it's only the people who actually believe that there's censorship out there, and what percentage of the population actually believes that. So you're sitting there saying that 1% of the population rules the world, 4% of the population does whatever the hell that 1% wants so they can have a life of luxury. 90% of the population is clueless, and the other 5% are trying to wake them up and say, hey, we need to revolt here. You know who said that? Malcolm X. Interesting. All the way back in the 60s. You are being censored for sure. Yeah, I am. I know it. Would vitamin D help the body utilize that excess calcium you just mentioned? Yes and no. Vitamin D increases calcium utilization. Vitamin K, people do K2 because K2 helps to distribute those calciums that are broken, that are in the body where they're not supposed to be. And that's one of the proponents of why to use vitamin K2. Another is Dr. Reams, at least Dr. Reams' daughter, Betty, who I don't see online today. But Betty talked about Dr. Reams mentioning how apple cider vinegar helps to mobilize calciums that are in their inappropriate places. So if you're starting to clog up your arteries and stuff like that, consuming apple cider vinegar, which you can go to Dr. Bragg's, who was a PhD naturopathic doctor, Bragg's amino acids, Bragg's apple cider vinegar. He wrote books about apple cider vinegar alkalizing the body. Why does it alkalize the body? Because most of the calciums you deposit in your arteries is alkaline forming. It's mostly calcium carbonates and and things like that are alkaline forming getting deposited, and the Bragg's the apple cider vinegar is going to mobilize those calciums, so that will alkalinize the body because they're becoming alkaline and being distributed. That's my belief in it, at least when you're thinking it from an electrochemical standpoint. Don't forget the blue thumbs up, everybody. You know, it's really ironic because we get these YouTube stats that we got 32 increased people this month. Great, you know, and we had this many thumbs up showing that everybody's thumbs up, and we had this much increase in hours, you know, and but you know, still we had this many shares. I think we had, you know, 55 shares in a month. You know, that's, I know you're trying, people, but you know, I'm glad that you find that this is something beneficial. Truly see 412 is how I found you. Diana, clothing is what a lot of people are going to. Brand new platform B. Have you heard of that, Annie?
Clout Hum. I think it auto corrected on her.
Oh.
Well, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, Clout Thumb. Yeah. Yeah, check it out. Section 230 will be repealed. So this is literally not going to be a problem for long, I believe. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I got, you know, what's interesting is like in 2018, naturopathic medicine became licensed in the state of Pennsylvania. Did you know that? So it was officially created as a bill in the state of Pennsylvania. As of January 1st, 2018, naturopaths were licensed under the medical board. Uh-oh. So what's happened since then? The medical board has been changing what it said as to listing what we're going to be allowed to do. And they still have not offered licensure for a single naturopath 2 years later. They just keep it in the courts and in our house to keep saying, we need to change this and reword this. We need to change this and reword this. But not allowing naturopathic doctors to practice as they were trained. That's how the original bill was written. You know, interesting stuff, right? Let's go to the Constitution of the United States and the U.S. 31st Congress that basically outlined naturopathic medicine, that basically said that if you are appropriately trained in the arts of food and mineralization and cell salts and all the things that I'm talking to you about, that you are not practicing medicine without a license, as the allopathic trust is suggesting that you do, back to 1931. And then it goes on to say that if a naturopathic board is created, that you have to have naturopaths on that board. Isn't that crazy? So let's talk U.S. federal Congress, or let's talk what states are doing. 1975 or 78, somewhere around there, the chiropractic board sued the American Medical Association and won for being blackballed. And they basically said, hey, you guys are scrutinizing us and discrediting us and everything. They won a national lawsuit, and then chiropractors were licensed in every state. And now you hear about them everywhere. But like what happened in the 1960s was, or late 50s, early 60s, was osteopathic medicine was rising fast. And the medical establishment said, hey, either we're going to take these people under our belt and train them the way we want them, or they're going to create a healing division of medicine. So what they do, boom, osteopathic doctors can now go through medical, they can do osteopathic training, which very little osteopathic aspect of adjusting. I don't even know how much they teach the associations in OD school and association of how to adjust people anymore like they used to, and the associations of the mind and the body in relation to the physical body and adjusting and how important that is. I'm going to have a chiropractor that's going to come on in a few weeks and talk about that. But then they turned around and they took them under their belt, and now osteopathic doctors can go to medical-based residencies. And so osteopathic schools are no different than medical schools. Same training, same drug companies in teaching them what to turn and how to recommend what they're recommending. So chiropractors came in, right? Chiropractors are still at odds with the medical establishment. And even though there's plenty of science showing the associations of how chiropractic can help with chronic pains, all types of issues, you know, from plantar fasciitis to sciatic issues to chronic disorders to you name it. Chiropractic is important, and Reeves explained that. So, well, we were going to talk about pH today because
We're
Annie,
trying.
huh?
We're trying.
We're trying, and I'm going off on.
Well, it's all right. Mary said that she sent a message to Trump about the harassment and condemnation of natural medicine and how it needs to stop. I have to bring up Dr. Shiva because he's running for office in Massachusetts, and there was huge voter fraud up there. He lost the election and he won. He has the proof, but who's going to look at it? It's just, I feel like it's Christmas future for our presidential election, sadly.
That's not good. I would
I don't
hope
want to say
Trump
that, but I mean,
because I think Shiva, didn't he find out that there was over 1 million uncounted votes
Yep.
directly for him?
Somehow they have images of it. He breaks it down on his website, but he's incredible, especially for medical freedom. Oh my gosh, the man is brilliant, and he has all of the credentials that people look for to allow him to speak on those topics. It's really a shame that he didn't get in, because man, the things that he could do if he could get people's attention.
The worst part is that he turned around, can prove voter fraud in the state of Minnesota, right?
Massachusetts
can prove voter fraud, but the state assembly will not review or take that data and question the person that's being put in, and recount or do anything about it. We're ignoring this.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. They are draining the corruption. Then the Tesla towers here, healing technology. Tesla towers. I'm telling you, that's the one thing, if we're going to talk politics today, I will say from a Republican stance, I hate the Republican stance on renewable energy. In reality, the Republicans seemingly don't give a damn about our world, in regards to nature and preserving and things like that. Better forest management, sure, but in regards to, destroying this world and sucking it dry versus using the renewable energy. I mean, why can't we put big turbines in the ocean? We were talking about that. Right?
Yeah.
Why can't we, why can't we just put some wind? We don't want to look at those windmills. Oh no, but why can't we build Tesla towers? What was Tesla doing back in the 1920s? And when he was generating enough energy to power cities from the electromagnetics that the earth creates, but you can't turn around and they couldn't govern it. It was free to anybody who had an antenna, a way to receive that power. And he was sending it right through the air.
Well, see, can't be free.
Can't be free, people. So if we really had a government that cared for us, let's build Tesla towers in every city. Let's give everybody a way to have free energy, and let's okay, if energy is not a problem, we're not wasting our money there. Where are we going to do? We're going to invest it in other stuff, right?
That's right. I agree. The Need to Grow has a good solution. They go in and fix our soil, because obviously big ag is totally ruining our soil. But go in and you fix that soil, and the act of doing that, you create power. And it's free. Who knew? Right. Who knew you could grow, really nutritious food and have heat and all those things?
And it's funny you mentioned that, because Kerry Reams was an agricultural genius.
Yeah, probably apply him to that
ever. And what did he want? He wanted America to be the healthiest country in the world. And how did he want to do it? He wanted to teach farming practices that we were eating the healthiest food.
Amen. And then, but what did we actually do? We now eat the most unhealthy food because we went in and changed it all.
Yep. Let's do Franken farming. Hey, Betty joined us.
I guess we should go to pH.
Yep. Betty joined us. So since we're going to talk pH, I'm going to try to find that little email that you sent me and pull up the pull up the thumbnail that we're going to share with people today.
Okay, I can send it to you in your email.
I got it. Look at that. I can access it. I got it. I'm good. So when we're looking at this, she's going to turn around and pop up the perfect equation, the little thumbnails that we're creating to help you guys understand this stuff. Okay. And we've talked about the bricks being, sugar regulation and potential energy. and how important that is for oxygen availability, because your liver has to have oxygen, has to have calcium, oxygen, trace amount of iron, trace amount of iodine, trace amount of vitamin A, has to have pure water. Oh my God, I've just pulled a study on water showing its direct connection with DNA formation, people, in vibrational aspects, you know? And so everything Reams explained electrochemically is in the research. And so, but pH. So when we're looking at the bricks as potential energy, pH is looking at the aspects of the speed of that energy. Is that up in front of them right now, Annie?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're looking, we talk about, let's go down this, so the perfect pH is 6.4 over 6.4. Oh my God, that's acidic. Well, according to a pH scale, but not according to biological efficiency and resistance, the amount of speed, how fast things can go. So as you go through and read this, pH of the saliva gives us an idea of the strength of your liver bile. How well is your bile going to break down the foods and the fats, right? And then the pH of the urine gives us the efficiency of your body metabolism and how well are you accepting things. It's actually your frequency. Where I was talking about the speed of frequency is, your pH tells whether you're on frequency. So if you can keep your urine pH at 6.4, you're on frequency. So that allows for vitamins, minerals to be utilized for your body to run more efficient. It's efficiency. pH is your efficiency. So when you read that section right below it, it says urine pH represents a post-digestive efficiency, and saliva pH pre-digestive efficiency of how energy can move through the system, as well as helping you locate a y-axis body site of energy loss. So if you look at the body on an x-axis going horizontal and a y-axis going perpendicular up and down, the pH guides you as to where in the body your symptoms are. So if you have low pHs, like below 6.4, it's going to be below your belly button. So you start hitting in the 5.3 to 5.8, you're looking at pelvic issues. You start looking at 6.1 to 6.3, you're looking at intestinal and bladder issues or uterine issues. You start looking below 5.4, I typically see, you're always going to see lower back pain. You're going to see, when you get below 5.3, you typically see knees that are aching, left or right knee, depending on what the nitrates are pointing to. The nitrates point to the x-axis, the right or left side. So Dr. Reams showed that pH is a measure of friction or resistance. So basically, it's the measurement of positive and negative charges, or positive and positive charges, or negative and negative charges rubbing up against one another, which is friction, right? And then you're turning around, and the speed of that friction is what the pH is giving you a value of. And 6.4 is considered a neutral electric point, where the ions, the positive or negative charges, can change what direction they're spinning and be either cationic, positive charge, spinning clockwise, or anionic, negative charge, counterclockwise, based on the external influences, based upon what the environment is, that your body adapts based upon that environment. And what's interesting is water makes up 80% of your body, and water is hydrogen and oxygen, both of which Reams explained to be isotopes, meaning depending on the external influences, either hydrogen or either oxygen can spin left or right based upon the environment. So if you're acidic, you're going to have this tendency towards things going too fast. If you're alkaline, you're going to have this tendency towards going too slow. And so what we put in here is, we put the ranges going down, and what we're trying to do, because ranges are important, we look at patterns. And when you're looking at the aspects of the healing range, the restorative range, that's range A. Reams identified it as 6.3 to 6.6. Some people push it out to 6.2 to 6.8. But it's a high degree of energy efficiency. You're going to build reserve energy if you get your pHs honed in. However, you can have a crappy bricks, and that'll compensate because all the numbers are relative. It's all relative math. And that bricks, if your bricks is off and you're running in the range D, you're affecting that 90%. That's why all the numbers, one number can't be perfect unless all the numbers are perfect, because where they're outside of ranges, you're decreasing the overall efficiency. So you have to mathematically take all the numbers into consideration. So when you look at a range chart and you put your numbers in, well, this one's in B, this one's in A, this one's in A, this one's in D, this one's in C, this one's in A, this one's in, and you go across and you say, well, this one's in C, this one's in D. So that one's running, between 20 to 50% efficient, and that one's running between 50 to 75% efficiency. So, and that B is running somewhere between 75 to 95% efficient, and the two that are in A are being sucked down in efficiency because you're only as strong as your weakest link. So when you're looking at this, when you look at this chart, if you have where you're in ranges D and E, you're cationic. You're going too fast. Your frequency's too fast. So there's symptoms specifically associated with that. Hey, digestion's going too fast, so you can see diarrhea. You see where you're not going to digest food in your stools. You're going to see lower extremity pain. Why? Because your pHs are low, and it's that y-axis. You're going to see premenstrual cramping and heavy menstrual flow. Why? Because you're low. You're drawing energy from that pelvic area. You're going to see prostate complaints, malabsorption. Things are going too fast, can't absorb it. You're just going to see deficiencies, and worse deficiencies because the energy efficiency is less at those lower ranges. When you go to B and C, then you're looking at things are going too slow. They start slowing down. And so what happens when you're too slow? That book, Alkalize or Die, people, where they want you to run a pH of 7.0, you're going to start seeing constipation, upper respiratory complaints, sinus, skin eruptions, vitamin A utilization, because you're basically going to auto intoxicate, because if your bowels aren't moving, you're going to reabsorb your toxins, and the body will push things out through the skin. Vision complaints, shoulder, upper extremity pains, thyroid conditions. Do you see a pH between, say, 6.7, 6.8 to about 7.1, and you see low nitrates, you're going to have a thyroid condition, whether you have a normal TSH or not. You can turn around and do a hair analysis, and I guarantee you your thyroid ratio is going to be off. Teeth, jaw issues, all those kind of things. And so you're turning around and you're looking at pH as a marker. You're looking at it as a marker for how efficient am I eating. So when you break it down, so Annie, you can now pull up my DE and BC diet foods. I know you don't have it. I was just putting you on the spot.
I have nothing in there for diet yet.
Yep. You can pull that down though. So when you're looking at this stuff, what's going on, people, is you're measuring, you're sitting here saying like, oh my God, I have those symptoms. And if you measure your pH, I'm telling you, go back and watch Testing and Testimony, where we had Philip come on and talk about testing regularly. And hold on one second, I need a drink, some lemon. So Philip talked about testing all the time, every time he peed, his pHs and his bricks. Why? Potential energy, efficiency of energy, and learning your pattern. And you learn what foods are appropriate for you. And as your pHs hone in to that A range, you can eat anything. You will find that you can eat on both sides of the equation, from the BC foods to the DE foods. And we've broken all those foods down, people. When you buy testing equipment, we send it to you. When you come in as a client, we send it to you. But I haven't put it all out there for free yet. I got to get my book out. And so anyway, let's see what else people have to say here. America has the potential to be the most healthy and happiest place to live in. Yeah, it certainly does. I agree. What is the best way to develop a career in natural health? Best schooling? I have a bachelor's in business administration, but that's all. Well, that's a good place to start, because the problem, I can show you a forum on the naturopathic chat that was just happening this week that, the problem is they train all these naturopaths to think that they're going to go out and do good in the world, but they have no business training and they have no clue how to run a business. And that's a problem. They start a practice and they can't maintain it because they don't know how to charge, what to charge for, because they just want to go out and help. They're good people. Naturopaths are good people. So historically, I would have told you to go to a licensable naturopathic school. I think National College of Naturopathic Medicine is probably the best, or now called National University of Natural Medicine. There's Bastyr, there's Southwest College, there's now Bridgeport, Connecticut. I think that school may be closing. I don't know if they did or not, but there was a Bridgeport, Connecticut for a licensed school. There's one in Canada. Can't think of the name of it. And I think they were trying to start one in Chicago, where they were incorporating a chiropractic school and they were creating a naturopathic program. But, at this point, our Constitution says if you learn from an appropriate trained place that to understand the concepts of food and mineralization and vitamins, that you're not practicing medicine without a license. But I would still tell you to use a private practice, because if you start helping people, guess what? They're going to come after you, which sucks. So if you're looking for, a naturopathic practice to protect yourself, then go to medical school, get a medical degree, then go to naturopathic school and get certified in naturopathic school in 2 more years, and then have a license to do whatever you want in practicing medicine, and practice it the right way, and just don't do anything stupid to where the medical board sees you healing too many people and yanks you from being able to practice and takes your license away because you're outside the scope of practice. Otherwise, I historically have been against schools such as Trinity, and there's one down south, and these schools that teach just naturopathic because they don't have any medical background. But at this point, we need people who can help people. Bottom line, we need people who understand the basics. And if you learn RBTI and you learn, looking at live blood, which is simple, if you learn electrodermal testing of measuring, those 3 things right there, you can help thousands of people, thousands upon thousands of people. So you can go and get trained for how to identify live blood and testing for live blood patterns. Next to nothing, probably $1,200, but your microscope's going to cost you about $8,000 to $10,000 for a good one. You might find a little cheaper you can get one for $2,000 to $4,000 if you cut some corners. But learning but the problem is, well, I'm not a doctor, but there's enough stuff out there to where you start learning patterns. Everything is patterns. Frequency is patterns. We have patterns in our lifestyle that keep us from being able to achieve things because you have blockages because you were trained to think one way. Right?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
So
heal that inner child.
Yep. So the idea is, how can you identify the patterns and have an analytical perspective? So you can do a mail order type of naturopathic program or something to that effect and get some type of certification. So if you are shown that you have been trained, then you can practice. But I would tell you to practice under a private license, to join a private group, and to practice under privacy, because the purpose of the government is to protect the public. And so if you are treating the public, then guess what? If you're doing something that they don't want you to do, then they can throw you in jail, period. So there's my 2 cents worth on it. Both parties had their hands in our eco problems. Yep.
And for sure. I do appreciate that Trump is trying to just make us, use our own energy that we have in our own country. That's at least one step.
It might be dependent on somebody else. Right. I mean, and he's been trying to go after the Federal Reserve and put us back on a gold standard, people. Mm-hmm. You imagine if the banks lose control of the money in the United States?
Oh my
Can you imagine what that would do? It all started in the 1960s, in the late 60s, where they decided that we needed to get, in order for companies to succeed, they realized that they had to become involved with who's making the rules. So corporations started getting involved in lobbying. And then what happens? Oh, we got off the gold standard under Nixon. That was a huge mistake. I don't want to go there.
China has enough. Yeah. Let's back to whatever.
Voucher Institute. I don't know. You know, the whole thing is I know that Betty has worked with what's the natural one that I just mentioned? Not Trillium.
Trinity.
Trinity. Betty's worked with Trinity to make sure that they're teaching an RBTI perspective of how to test and how to understand how to eat based upon prominent calciums, and how to look at RBTI as a foundation, you know. And there are other people that are trying to create some type of RBTI certification. And before I basically say, yeah, I'm going to go with this certification as far as the coalition that we've created, I want to see what the program's what it consists of. You know, I know Michael Olsta's program. I know Bedeau's program, which is no longer available to my acknowledgement that it's no longer available online, where you can go through Dr. Bedeau's training program. But I know Michael Olsta, and he teaches a great program, people. He teaches you how to understand these concepts, but he also teaches you an aspect of he's not a doctor. He's a great guy. And he really understands RBTI probably better than I do in regards to explaining it from a concept of conceptual. And he teaches you the basics of how to understand the numbers. I just don't agree with the application of how calciums are used versus diet. It's just a difference in the same, and it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to teach you is that these numbers is an analytical test. This is giving you to say you are measuring what you're doing. And if you're doing something that moves your numbers in the right direction, then thumbs up, period. You know, if you're doing something that's moving your numbers away from the right direction and you're not changing the numbers and they're staying in the same patterns, then you're not doing something right. That's where I come from. Oh, let's see. How did I find out about RBTI was something that you were always aware about when I was in naturopathic school and I came across Dr. Kerry Reams, I asked one of my, mentors, and they're like, no, he was one of those doctors that was really into pH, and it turned out that it really didn't pan out. And that's what they told me. Okay. So I didn't pursue my own knowledge and follow down my own rabbit hole. Later on, came back up and I started looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, what is this guy really saying? And next thing you know, I'm buying all my testing equipment. I start testing me and all my clients. And then I start seeing like, oh my God, this is real. And I started seeing when people were eating foods they're not supposed to. And I started seeing that this is telling me that they're liver stress. I know there's liver stress, but now I know that it's congested. And now I know that I need to help that liver to flush, not just stimulate that liver, or this liver's overstressed. I need to protect that liver. I need to slow it down. So there's a lot of good information. Food comes first, supplements second. Amen, Betty. I completely agree. Thank you, Misak. Misak, by the way. Jim, has some interesting things to say about the gold standard as of last week. Oh, I didn't know that. Have you heard about the gold standard there, Miss?
Oh, yes. It's been being talked about that maybe Trump's going to start a new economy, this whole push. I don't dive too far. There's enough to drive me crazy.
Yep. So Betty says supplements are a crutch to help the body. We don't want to use them forever. We need to learn how to eat mineral-rich foods by the numbers. We need to find mineral-rich foods, Betty. So bottom line, I could do a whole show and pull up research from a pharmaceutical perspective on the wasting of our lands and demineralization, and say, look, even if you're buying organic, it doesn't mean there's minerals in it. So the problem is I'm at a standpoint in my mind that you have to take the minerals because we're not getting them from our foods. Certain people crave certain foods. It's interesting when you look at prominent calciums in those foods when they correlate with where their pHs are. That's kind of a cool thing to look at. But I agree, supplements should not be the norm. But what you will find, depending on what X factor you're in and how your age is and your ability to restore, that you typically start with a higher amount of nutrients. And after a period of time, the older you are, the longer that period of time is. But after a period of time, you tend to need to take less minerals because you've been remineralizing. And I've noticed even by testing hair analysis once a year, it takes about 4 to 5 years for hair analysis to fall into normal patterns. So if you've been demineralizing for 50 years, don't expect to take some supplements for 3 months and be able to just live on foods. That's just my experience by measuring people, by measuring and observing. So, sorry to backtrack a bit, but when you were talking about the velocity of reactions within the body relating to pH, were you saying that pH is dependent on velocity? Example, basic reactions happen slower. Basic reactions happen slower than acidic. I don't know what. Yeah. Reams explained pH as a measure of resistance, how these positive and negative charges are moving against one another, not just in relation to exchange of hydrogen, because they use hydrogen as a means of explaining pH and the movement of hydrogen, because hydrogen is an isotope. It can spin left or right. And so Reams explained that that when the pH is low or acid or cationic, that those reactions are going too fast. There's not enough resistance to maximize your energy potential, because at 6.4, biological systems maximize, they have the amount of friction that they need, but not too much to be like a static energy that's breaking things down, and not enough to where they can't get their exchange appropriately. So it's the speed of things. So yes, pH is telling the ideal speed is what it comes down to. But the urine is giving us the overall how the body's handling things, and the saliva he showed was in correlation with the strength of your liver bile. And so the saliva was giving us an idea of the potential for digesting. So if you start noticing and you start watching the patterns, you'll see that when people get their urine pH is high and their saliva pH is low, not only is that a B12 deficiency, but because their bile is weak, you'll see their sugar to salt ratio drop down. And sometimes if, most people are getting sea salt, but if people are not getting sea salt and they're controlling their diet, they'll drop below a 1-to-4 ratio because they're not extracting their minerals because their bile's too weak, because it's going too fast. I hope that makes sense. So yes, I am relating it to speed of the frequency. You got to think in terms of frequency and vibration. So I hope that makes sense. But that's my 2 cents worth on, on pH for the day. We keep bringing these up. Annie gave me all those slides again, and I went through, and other than which one did I make huge changes to? I think cell debris. I said, let's say this. And I made some big changes on the cell debris poster. And every time she gives them to me, I'm like, oh, let's do this. And we're almost there. I think this time we really got through them. And last week we mentioned that I thought that the ranges were inappropriate or wrong on the bricks. And they were not. She did them correctly. Directly from what Dr. Badeau taught. It's just, you're looking at patterns, and you look at a C range pattern where the bricks is 8 to 13. If you're at a 13, you're dead, people. If you're above an 8, you probably have a brain tumor. And so it's kind of interesting when but that makes sense because C is the highest anionic set, and the more anionic you are, the more you are towards the top of your body. The more cationic you are, the more you are towards the bottom of the body, because the earth is cationic, the atmosphere is anionic. So your brain, anionic, your feet, cationic. And so if you have the highest degree of being away from range A with your bricks, and you're super anionic, when I see numbers above 8.5, you're looking for brain issues. Makes sense. But that's just another thought. I hope it all makes sense.
You got one more question. You don't have a gallbladder. How does it change things? Lemon water suggested with meals if not digesting well?
Yeah, definitely. Always use the lemon water with your meals. You can still use it. And you may still need to do a liver gallbladder flush, because your liver can get stones in your liver that will dump during a flush. And so if your saliva pH goes up above 6.8, I started having people do liver gallbladder flushes, assuming that their bricks is under control and their nitrates are not out of control. Because when you do a gallbladder flush, you will detox. And if you are not detoxing effectively by looking at those nitrates, and you don't have good energy utilization or the energy to process it with poor bricks control, then you should not do a gallbladder flush, because you'll feel like crap. So one of my goals is to walk you through a healing process without making you walk through an emergency room thinking that you're having some type of crappy heart attack or something because you're detoxing too much. The numbers tell you when to detox. And so those are kind of the patterns that we want to teach people. So I thank you. I hope that explains everything. I thank you for tuning in. Again, thumbs up on everybody. If you could put that thumbs up, I totally appreciate that. If you turn around and share this, it's even more appreciated. I don't know how to get it back onto the forums to let people know that we're out here. But if you have a way, please do it. We appreciate that. I could just say, take care. God bless you all.